Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, and welcome to my engineering gold guide. First off, I want to put a disclaimer out here. Engineering has never really been a gold making profession. Pretty much since release, it's been weak in that department. It's mainly just a profession that gives you utility and lets you mess around with fun little gadgets. There are some ways you can get some gold out of engineering, some crafting you can do, and some farming, believe it or not. In this video, I'll go over all of them, but like I said, it's still kinda weak compared to the other professions. I'll start with the stuff from the latest expansion, which is the Warlords of Draenor. There are many items you can craft. They all require gear spring parts, which you get from your daily craft and your engineering building work orders. For the most part, I stay away from all of the crafted gear like the shred iron shredder and all of the various goggles. They don't really sell too well in my experience, and they'll be even worse come Legion. Instead, I like to make the Findle's Lootering. This allows you to loot mobs from far away. It's a really neat gadget, so it's usually in high demand. What's nice about this is it doesn't require engineering, so unlike most of their gadgets, you're not alienating all of the non-engineers. You get the schematic for the lootering from the trainer in your engineering building, or from Storm Shield if you're Alliance, or War Spear if you're Horde. They cost 50 gear spring parts each to make and sell anywhere from 50 to about 200 gold depending on what server you're on. It's not a crazy amount, but it is a decent way to get rid of all of those gear spring parts. Another gadget that's not as high in demand, but it's still pretty good, is the Swap Blaster. What this does is it switches positions with yourself and a targeted party member. They each cost 50 gear spring parts and 1 temporal crystal to make, and once again, you don't need to be an engineer to use it. You buy the schematics from the same vendor in your engineering building or Storm Shield and War Spear, and they range anywhere from 100 gold to 500 gold once again depending on what server you're on. And that's pretty much it for the Draenor related stuff. Like I said, nothing too crazy. There are other items that may sell for more on the auction house, but you gotta keep in mind that it doesn't mean that they'll actually sell. The reason I like these two items so much is, like I said, there's a fairly high demand for them, so I don't always log on to a mailbox full of expired stuff. If you would try to sell the shred iron shredder or the goggles, for example, sure, they may sell for more, but due to the fact that only engineers can wear the goggles and only hunters can use the guns, the market for those items are going to be really stagnant, and it'll probably take you a lot longer to sell them compared to the Lootering or the Swap Blaster. Combining that with the high deposit price of putting these up on the auction house, I generally avoid making them. The best advice I can give you is to try to craft an even amount of Looterings and Swap Blasters so you don't get overstocked. If you're making more than you sell, you can also dip into the pet market. There are 3 pets that you can make with engineering in the Warlords of Draenor expansion, and that's the lifelike mechanical frostboar, the mechanical axebeak, and the mechanical scorpid. And once again, you get the schematics from the same vendors as everything else. There are also a couple of toys like the personal hologram and the world shrinker that you can make as well, but for the most part, if you can, stick with the Lootering and the Swap Blaster as your primary crafts. Another thing that a lot of people forget about is the gummy. You can buy this from your engineering building if it has a follower assigned to it. It's pretty much a non-engineer version of the molly. It's bind on use and costs only 1 gold and 60 silver, and you can resell it anywhere from 200 to 400 gold depending on what server you're on. It's nothing too spectacular, but hey, it's basically free gold, so it's at least worth trying. In terms of old world items, old mounts like the Mechanire's Chopper, the Mechanohog, and the Sky Golem still sell really well. Obviously, if you want to farm the materials for these items, you're going to need mining as well. You can also just buy the bars and such off of the auction house if they're cheap and make them that way. Some other possibilities are all of the materials for Jeeves the Repair Bot. This requires 3 different types of repair bots to make, the Field Repair Bot 74A, 110G, and the Scrap Bot construction kits. Pretty much every engineer will eventually want to pick up a Jeeves, but most of them don't want to go to the trouble of crafting all of those, so they just buy them off the auction house, and they sell for a lot as a result of that. I'll have links in the description if you're curious about that. They're all pretty simple to make. They require various bars, so once again you'll need mining to make those unless you just get the materials off the auction house. That's pretty much it crafting wise. You can also do some farming as an engineer that may be lucrative. There's something called the Zap Throttle Mote Extractor available to engineers. What this does is it allows you to collect elemental motes from wandering clouds in the old Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King zones. You have a wide selection of elements to choose from. For the Burning Crusade tier, the Primal Airs and the Primal Fires are the most lucrative at around 120 gold each across all US servers, and for the Wrath of the Lich King tier, Eternal Fires are the most lucrative at around 60 gold each across all of the US servers. The Mote Extractor itself sells for around 3,800 gold. That's because you can't just learn the recipe. To get the recipe for it, you have to do a quick quest in Zangarmarsh. I'll have a link in the description if you have trouble finding that. It may even be worth selling a few of them because they're such a bother to get. A lot of people see that they need to go through all of this rigmarole to get it, so they just choose to buy it off the auction house instead. But like I said, you can find these clouds all over the place in these old zones. My personal favorite zone is Nagran for the windy clouds, which contain primal airs. I'll have a map in the description and also TomTom waypoints for those of you who use that add-on. And you guys know me and my routes. I made an optimized route that you can follow that picks these up as fast as possible. I followed this route for an hour and managed to pick up 48 primal airs total. This was during busy hours on the weekend too, so there was some competition. I'm sure that's actually on the low end. I usually avoid estimations because they're server dependent and they become outdated quickly, but that's an average of nearly 5,800 gold per hour, assuming the sell on the auction house, which of course isn't guaranteed. But you can even combine this with mining and earn even more gold since Nagrand is pretty packed with adamantite and fel iron veins. When you're running this route, it's also a good idea to realm hop to get some extra clouds. You can use the Cross Realm Assist add-on to speed this up a bit. What this add-on does is it allows you to realm hop with a single click of a button. It also scans all of the realms you've been to recently, so you don't hop to the same one over and over. It's a really useful add-on to have. I'll have a link to it in the description if you want to try it out. And that's pretty much all there is to it, at least the stuff that I know of. Like I said, for the most part, engineer's just a fun profession where you mess around with various gadgets, but there are some ways to squeeze gold out of it if you know where to look. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. I guess that's all I have to talk about. I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a like if you liked it, and if you really liked it, let me know in the comments and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, good luck, and peace!